This is Rich Franklin, and you're listening to Stand and Bang.
Hey, this is Jim Miller, and you're listening to Stand and Bang.
Hey, this is Dan Miller, and you're listening to Stand and Bang.
Hey guys, this is Hurricane Heather Joe Clark, and you're listening to Stand and Bang Radio.
Hey, this is Max Gladys Holloway, and you're listening to Stand and Bang Radio.
Hi, I'm Andrea KGB Lee, and you're listening to Stand and Bang Radio.
Hey everybody, Bob Swinton here. You are listening to Stand and Bang. Boom!
Hey, fight fans, welcome back to Stand and Bang. I'm your host, Aaron Robbins, and with me as always is Fred Kirby from Gem City Fighting. Fred, how are you doing today?
Hey, pretty good, man. How you doing, Aaron?
I am doing fantastic, and one of the reasons is we have an awesome fighter joining us today. We have Mark Munoz. Mark, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule.
No problem. It's my pleasure.
Speaking of busy schedule, we were talking with your PR gal, Rena, and she said you didn't have a whole lot of time today. Why don't you give the fans a little insight? What have you got going on, being a dad of 4 kids, a husband, training for a fight? What's going on today in the life of Mark Munoz?
Yeah, so along with those that you just said, having a wife and 4 kids, along with all their activities, I have a gym called Rain Training Center. That I own and operate, teach and coach at, and then I have an anti-bullying campaign, all the while trying to be an elite mixed martial artist. So that's a lot of stuff that I got going on right there.
And absolutely, you are an elite martial artist. We're going to get into that. But this is, like we told Rena and like we told yourself, this is kind of like a farewell to one of our favorite fighters. It's very well documented that the fight in Manila is going to be your last fight against Luke. And me personally, I wanted to know, in this era of fighters where we see guys fighting into their 40s and it seems like they are holding on to this career and maybe taking a little extra damage than they need to, how did you come up with the idea that it was time to move on to the next phase, maybe become a teacher? How did you know it was time that this would be your last fight?
Yeah, so just this past year, it's obviously been a kind of a downtrodden year for me. You know, I have had a lot of adversity going throughout this year as far as my health and my, injuries and all of that. And all the while going through that, having Rain Training Center and having everything going on, with teaching, coaching, and trying to operate a business, it's been really tough for me. So, with me, my son is going into high school. My daughter's already in high school, and she really wants to get a scholarship and go to college for soccer, and my son is starting high school too, and he wants me to coach him. And this is one thing that I've always told everybody I came into contact with here at the gym is, you're going to make tough decisions in your life, and this is definitely one of those tough decisions. But I definitely want to make the right decisions as far as putting my family first, and and everyone says that you got to prioritize your schedule, but for me, I want to schedule my priorities, and it's very hard to schedule my priorities when I have a lot of things going on in my life. So, with you only have one chance to raise your kids and to be with your family, and for me, that I put that at the top priority on my list. And when my son said, "Dad, I'm gonna stop playing baseball and stop playing soccer," and just to give you a perspective on that, he actually went to Cooperstown, New York, and did very well there. That's kind of like the same tournament as the Little League World Series. He went there and played for a travel ball team that's one of the best in our area and arguably in the state. So he did very well over there. He plays for one of the best soccer clubs out here in Orange County. He says, "Dad, I want to quit soccer and baseball and I want to wrestle." I'm like, "What? Why? Why do you want to wrestle?" He goes, "Because I love wrestling." And I asked him what your goals were, and he goes, his goals were, and he said he said, "Dad, I want to get a full ride scholarship to a Division I university." And I said, "Wait, hold on. Out of the thousands of kids and only 72 schools give scholarships, what makes you think that you're going to get a full ride scholarship?" Without batting an eye, he looks at me dead in the eyes and he said, "Dad, I have you." So that right there just put an exclamation point on everything. And I definitely want to be here for my family and for my wife, who has supported me throughout my whole career and everything that I've done in wrestling and MMA. And I this is moving on to the next chapter and leaving a legacy with my kids and everybody I come into contact with being a coach. So that's what spurred it on. And for the first fight to be in the Philippines, that's definitely a card that I want to leave on a high note as well. So
absolutely.
Excited.
I wanted to get into the fact now I understand from the tone of your voice and the way that this year went that yes, you faced some adversity, but I want the fight fans to look at this as a positive. You're a very intelligent man. You are a loving father. You're a loving husband. And too many, Kirby, you and I have talked about this, too many of our good fighters who could give back something, maybe to their children, maybe to the next generation of fighters. They go and they go and they go, and then we have to see our favorite athletes, you included, who might have to suffer future infirmment or injury because they didn't know. So I want to celebrate this. You're making a great decision. Wouldn't you agree with that, Kirby?
Yeah, I think it's really refreshing to see a fighter kind of know when to call it quits and actually put his family first. I think a lot of these guys just compete for so long, it's hard to kind of cut that competitive switch off and focus on what you're going to do in the next part of your career. So I think it's really cool that Mark is able to kind of separate that and able to see the priorities for what they are.
Exactly. Now, the other question I'm sure that most fans want to know, what's next? It's not like you're going to disappear. We're still going to see you in the mixed martial arts world. You've got your gym going on. What kind of role are you going to play for the guys who are up and coming, the guys that you want to see get into the next level of mixed martial arts over at your gym?
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to be coaching. I want to coach my son in high school wrestling, and that's definitely what I want to do. And I even thought about being a teacher as well. So I'm thinking about getting my teaching credential, taking my CBEST test and my CSET to be able to be a credentialed teacher. So thinking about doing that so I can coach my son in high school, and I'm definitely going to be helping out some guys as well. So yeah, you'll see me around. I won't be a ghost, but I'll be around.
Okay, that's a really interesting fact that a lot of people may not know, is that you were actually a very, very good student throughout high school and college. Why don't you give the fans a little knowledge there? You might be a beast of an athlete, but you got quite the brain pan on you as well.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be a wrestling coach. I actually got my bachelor's degree in kinesiology, well, actually health promotion, and then I was getting my master's in sports psychology. All I had to do was my thesis, and I got into MMA, and I didn't finish my thesis yet, but I'm planning to do so. So yeah, I've been on the brink of completing my master's and getting all my degrees and being a very good student as well. Yes, I always talk about with everybody, with all the students I train, is you got to have your education. You got to put your education first in front of athletics, and you got to get your studies done, because no university or anybody, if you're thinking about continuing on to college, no university is going to take you in having bad grades. So I always put grades first and education first, and then athletics comes thereafter.
Exactly. I admire and respect that. I'm a chiropractor, so I know how important it is. Kinesiologist, great thing for athletes. And then sports psychologist. There is so much of the mind game in sports. So you're talking about, with you could go on to the next phase, and you're talking about being able to foster and take care of athletes in just about every aspect that a high-level athlete needs, right?
Yeah, for sure. As far as far as the physical aspect, I mean, you definitely need to train your body physically, but there's also mental aspects of the sport as well. And you may ask an athlete, what does it take to become a champion? And they're gonna say desire, direction, diligence, discipline, dedication, commitment, character, integrity. They're gonna say all these things, and 95% of it is going to be mental characteristics. But yet we train the physical so much, and we don't train the mental part. So, when I coach, I put them through mental scenarios, as far as, you're down by 2 and you need a score, or you've been taken down twice and you need to get a takedown and end the fight with an exclamation point, stuff like that. Put them in scenarios where they're having to think through what they need to do, and trying to cement it in their mind as far as being tough, because mental toughness, you just don't have, actually there's some guys that have mental toughness but don't know how to use it quite yet. But when you put them in scenarios where they have to use mental toughness, where it's sport specific, then that's when they'll transfer over to competition. And that's what I love doing, man. I love doing that, and I love teaching the physical, but also the mental, because that's very important.
That sounds great. I really look forward to seeing you in the next phase, where you become a coach, where you can give this broad depth of knowledge that you have from competing for the last 8 years at the highest level of the game. So at that point, Fred, I know you got a couple of good questions. Why don't you go ahead and take over?
Okay, yeah. Just quickly, so we know that you're going to be focusing on coaching and stuff moving forward. Would you ever consider doing anything like Metamoris or any kind of grappling competitions just to kind of stay competitive, or is that part of it done for you?
You know what? I totally hit on Gracie that I want to get my black belt. And man, I definitely, there's something as far as me being competitive. Like, I'm always going to be competitive in everything that I do. I have to stay into something, and, I even stay competitive with my wife at times when she wants to spot on the couch. We race to the car after getting groceries or something like that. It's just like there's something in me that wants to compete. And so, to answer your question, yes, I definitely want to, compete in Metamoris or Abu Dhabi or something like that. So I'm definitely going to keep training. I love it, and it's just a part of who I am.
Yeah, man, that'll keep life exciting for you post-fighting. I would love to see you in Metamoris. I think that'd be really cool. So you've had a pretty long, illustrious career in the UFC that is kind of winding down now. Is there a fight that you never got, or a particular fighter that you always wanted to test yourself against that you never quite got to get?
No, I've never looked at fighting like that. Of course I wanted to fight the champions of the sport. And, obviously when I was going through it, the longtime champion was Anderson Silva, but I was training alongside with him. So that kind of eliminated that. And then, I actually got to fight Chris Weidman, and he landed that elbow. And, I talk about unforeseen things happening to you. I didn't see the elbow. He caught me, and that's what it is, and, that's kind of an analogy on life. A lot of people go through unforeseen things and just wallow in their sorrow. But, I kind of like a phoenix rose again and came back. And, I actually went through some depression after that. I gained a lot of weight. I was 261 pounds. I gained so much weight, 76 pounds. And, I was hurt. I was injured. I got knocked out. And, a lot of people don't know that I broke my foot before getting into that fight. Didn't even know it was broken. Couldn't train for like 6 months afterwards. And, then I for the Boach fight, I lost 76 pounds and, had the best performance in my life. So there is victory through going through adversity, and I definitely want to show people what I went through. And if you look up on the internet, going from obese to beast, I hashtag obese to beast, and you'll see pictures of me of how I was able to rise above that adversity, and that's what I'm about, man. I talk about, some people may be diagnosed with cancer, but you can't. Your life doesn't end right now. If you get diagnosed with cancer, your life doesn't end. You keep living, and you keep living to the best of your ability, and live life abundantly as much as you can. So I talk about that, and you got to have the right that going through what you're going through. And so
yeah, I remember that on social media when you put on that weight and you had that like really dramatic weight loss and you was a beast afterwards. I remember you posting the pictures. I was following that when you was actually losing the weight and kind of posting that story leading up to the Boach fight.
Yeah, it was tough, man. It was really, really hard. And a lot of people think, man, they see the end product, but they don't see what happens in between. The in between is where you get the job done. And, that's the stuff that it was a hard thing to go through, but yet, if you take the steps necessary to go through it, although it's hard, you can definitely rise above it. So I'm definitely a walking testimony of that. And, want people to realize that they can conquer their demons and that they can be successful even through adversity.
I want to kind of rewind on something. You were talking about that mental toughness, and then Fred brought up the itch to compete. That will show you what you can bring to the table. You have that level of mental toughness, that itch to compete that cannot be extinguished. And in your adversity and dealing with depression and weight gain and stuff like that, do you believe that that's the sort of mental fortitude that you can pass on to your son, to your daughter, to your fighters over at your gym and say, look what I've been through. You can do it too.
Of course. And that's something to where it gives you instant credibility, because when you talk to an athlete or when you talk to your son or daughter, they're going to look at you and see what have you done, and it gives you instant credibility. Not to say if you haven't done it, you can lead somebody to do it, but it gives you instant credibility, and they know that they can do it, having gone through the things that I've gone through and having the career I've had, it's, the athletes that I coach and my kids are actually going to see, that you definitely can be successful, although bad things happen. Bad things are going to happen. You just got to have the right mindset going through it. And, I've heard this, that life is 90%, 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. And that's so true, because, things might happen in your life, but how you react to it definitely corresponds to how successful you're going to be thereafter.
That is a fantastic message for all the younger fans, the younger fighters that listen to our show. This is a man who has been through high highs and low lows. And speaking of that, Fred, I know you got at least one more for Mark, so I'm going to throw it back over to you.
Yeah. Just touching back on the points you made before, Mark, with your career in the UFC, the Chris Weidman fight being obviously relatively low, and then the triumph after that fight leading up to the Tim Boach fight. If you just take a minute to touch on kind of your highs and lows throughout your UFC career, what would you think of as maybe the low point and then maybe the high point of your mixed martial arts career?
Let's touch on the lows.
Okay.
Obviously the losses that I've sustained, Chris Weidman, that was definitely a low. My last fight with Juan Carnero, that was a low. I took that fight on 9 weeks notice, and I was coming back from an injury after losing to Masasi, and injuring my knee in that fight, totally I had a grade 3 tear in my MCL and a tear in my PCL, and it was just terrible. My leg was just I could barely walk on it after the fight. And so that, and then, losing to Machida, because I was supposed to fight Bisping, and then was training with Machida for about 4 weeks. And then, then later I get a call stating that I'm fighting Lyoto Machida, and I had no choice in it.
Damn.
And I'm like, man, dude, that's
rough.
We've been training for 4 weeks straight and all grappling, no striking at all. So been teaching them everything to how to defend takedowns, and I choked him out 3 times in 1 round, and so now he knows that I have a Darce when I put him down, and it's just like, it's crazy because now it's like, having gone through what I've gone through, all the lows, going through it, I definitely see why I went through it, because being a coach, experiencing the highs and experiencing the lows, you can definitely relate to an athlete, and all types of athletes as well. And that's what I've always thought I'd be as a coach. I love coaching and leading guys to being successful. And, I've been a part of, successful programs at Oklahoma State University, with the wrestling program. They're actually the best wrestling university historically. I was a part of that, and then I helped build a program in UC Davis, and there I was able to coach a national champ, an outstanding wrestler there in Derek Moore, and was able to build a program there until they had to cut their program, which then I decided to get into mixed martial arts. So then I continue with coaching and everything, and for me, that's what I love doing. I love leading guys and taking them through scenarios in which they're going to be challenged, and talking them through and leading them through adversity that they're going through. And I've done it myself, so now credibility more with them, and I can communicate and know what they're going through because I went through it myself.
Wow, that's crazy, man. Everything is perspective. I didn't really know that about Machida, but looking back on it now, if you grappled for all that time and then you get stuck with a striker that you've been teaching all your grappling techniques to, that puts you at a slight disadvantage on fight night, I would assume.
I wouldn't say slight.
Yeah.
Major, Jack.
Yeah.
And put another thing in perspective is Master Rafael Cordero was in his corner, and I was with Master Rafael Cordero for about 3.5 years, and he knows everything about me.
Wow.
And as far as striking, so that kind of threw me for a loop as well, and yeah, so it was very difficult for me.
Wow, yeah, I can see, man. That is the odd is that the deck is definitely stacked against you at that point.
Yeah, but you know what? Hey, I mean that's how it goes sometimes. I mean that's how the ball bounces and the cookie crumbles a lot of times. You just gotta take it and roll with it. And I'm not here to play the victim. I'm not, but I'm here to let everybody know that despite whatever happens in your life, you can find victory through it. And I'm definitely going through it. I'm gonna rise from that and be victorious. And with all the knowledge that I have accumulated through my career, I definitely want to pass it on. And that's where I find enjoyment and pleasure is being able to do that.
Exactly. Thank you for being so honest about the low points in your career. But now let's end this on a strong point. I really like your analogy of the phoenix rising from the fire. And that's exactly what you've done time and time again. And now as we move on to what's happening with you right now, you are about to fight in Manila. It's the first time the UFC has been there. Why don't you give us a little insight on how that feels being a Filipino-American and being able to go back and be in the inaugural event there where your heritage comes from?
Oh, man, it's unbelievable. It is a great feeling. I've actually went on tours over there, been able to promote the sport and do some seminars out there, and there's some awesome talent in the Philippines. And I always knew that, but now for the UFC to go into the Philippines now, for the nation to find some some success there, it's going to be awesome, you know. And so there's some Filipinos on the card that I'm excited to watch as well, and I definitely want to be the pioneer that's leading the way for martial arts, mixed martial arts in the Philippines. So definitely be making some trips back there to be able to help all the fighters out there. So yeah, I'm totally excited about it. That's where it all started for my family, and I'm super excited, super stoked to be on that card and to be able to represent not only the Philippines but America as well, because you know I grew up here in as well, and my family moved out here because you know they found a better life for them and their kids, and so you know I'm excited to be a part of where it all started for my family and be able to lead the way for the Philippines and to go back to the Philippines frequently. That's what I would definitely want to do. And I grew up very Filipino, from the traditions to the culture to the food. You know, I'm very, very Filipino. I speak the language, so it's just like, you know, I'm excited to be able to represent the Philippines there in UFC Manila.
Okay, it sounds to me like the Philippines has a pretty high fight IQ, so why don't you go ahead and tell the fight fans what they should expect from you in your farewell performance against Barnatt.
So, for me, I went back to the old school. You know, I had a lot of new coaches that I've gone with, but I've gone back with my old boxing coach, Abel Nunez, who in the beginning of my career I was knocking people out, but now I want to get back to what got me to the pinnacle of my career, which was being ranked third in the world and vying to be a number one contender. So I'm back with my boxing coach Abel Nunez, and then I'm with my strength conditioning coach Todd Norman, and I'm excited for what happens here on out. And I've had awesome coaches. Not to say that they didn't help me, but they helped me tremendously. But I with the coaches that I have now, they're going to help me with the mindset going into the fight where I was before, and I got my nickname being the Wrecking Machine because I would go in there and fight my fight and go in there and not be reckless, but be there but go in and be tactical in my attacks and close the gap and be able to strike, to be able to get my bread and butter, or actually my rice and soy sauce, which is my recipe.
Nice.
So I'm gonna go in there and obviously it's no secret. I'm gonna close the gap, look to take Barnatt down and do my patented Donkey Kong ground and pound on him, and look to just demonstrate all of that. So yeah, I'm definitely excited about being there and going back to the old Filipino Wrecking Machine.
That's great. We can't see that. Now, we're getting short on time. I know that you have a really busy day, so before we close, why don't you go ahead and tell your fans when is the date, how to tune in, and also how to get a hold of you or to follow you over on social media so we can watch you raise up like the Phoenix and follow the next aspects in your career.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at Mark_Munoz. You can also do that on Instagram. I have the same name, Mark_Munoz. I have a Facebook page. You can follow me on my fan page at Mark Munoz MMA. And then I have my website at markmunozmma.com. So I got a lot of things going on too. I got my anti-bullying campaign that I'm doing here in Orange County that I've already spoken to over 75 schools. And I love speaking and doing motivational speaking engagements and having my anti-bullying campaign and leaving a lasting impact on those that hear my message. So yeah, that's what I love doing, and that's what I'm going to continue on doing. And you can follow me on that, so on all of that social media that I just gave you. So thanks a lot, and I appreciate the time.
No problem. Anytime you have anything that you'd like to promote, just come on back. You've been listening to Stand and Bang with Mark Munoz. Please stay tuned because we have some more anti-bullying stuff coming up right after this.